Mhm.
To be,
And so
you need
I
to rent a car.
told him,
So that,
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Now I have a
told him,
truck
I
there.
said, you've gotta come.
Yeah, well, now I have a truck
Show
at
us.
the airport.
You know,
I
he was trying to
I
come up
keep
with
a
all
truck
kinds of-
there, so now she doesn't even have to say that, she just says, oh, by the way, here's your itinerary, and I look at it, I go, oh,
And show us where you want.
7 o'clock.
and tell us why you
Tomorrow.
want it, and we'll vote on that. He's gonna hand it. he's gonna
Well,
hand it.
well, the thing is,
I think,
I
don't know.
only travel
what
with
is
a
that?
backpack, if it doesn't fit in that backpack, it's not.
That's the graphic that Kim put together showing the proposed new.
Okay, but we wanna see the original, we wanna see what we approved.
I want to see the original.
Well, we'll put.
The original I can share on my screen here.
Anyhow, that's the back.
Well, I do that.
Yeah, right.
I talked with some other guy.
Here, I'll share it when it's
This is
time.
not, I know it,
This is
I know,
not
it, I know.
Is
This
this
is-
the
Yeah,
western?
that's it.
I've used it for 50
Oh,
years, I
sure,
know.
sure. Yeah, that'd be great.
Is this the western line?
No, that's, no,
Dropping Muskegon, Kentucky?
no, no. Yeah, don't worry, don't worry. Yep. So we
Oh,
can
that's not
compare,
happening.
So this is what is being proposed.
Yeah. that's not
Yes.
happening.
Okay.
including Tuckernuck and Muskegon.
This is going way beyond.
Why do we stop
Mattocket,
here? Why do we?
Way beyond Mattocket. This is going into the Cliff Road.
All right, let's,
Well, should we start? and then-
let's
Yeah.
get to the meeting and we can
Okay,
deliberate it
so
as part of the agenda.
Let's play
item.
with that. All right, are we up and running recording?
Yes, you are good to go.
Okay, this is a meeting of the Harbor Plan Update Committee on October 16th, 2023. It is 1:04. I'm in the lovely, ugliest building in Nantucket. Can I read this stupid thing first? Okay, I'm gonna read the guidelines for remotely conducted and or hybrid open meetings. Using Zoom for this meeting allows for the public to participate. Meeting as an attendee. The chair can request that members of the public provide their names for purposes of keeping active minutes. This is the longer version, guys. There is a shorter version. Attendees must register. We don't. Attendees will join in listening mode. They can click and raise their hand button if they wish to speak. Chair will call on those who have raised their hands in the order they were raised. All questions will be directed through this chair. Preliminary matter, this is the Harbor Plan Update committee. Permit to confirm all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present can hear me. This is the longer version, guys. I have a much shorter version. Okay, Phil,
Here.
Dave,
I,
Peter,
Here.
Steve,
Here,
who's up there?
Seth.
Seth,
Here.
anybody else up there? From the meeting, the committee?
Roberto's on the committee.
Oh, yeah, Roberto said he can't make it today.
he is off today.
Yeah. Okay, staff, when I call your name, Jeff,
Yes.
We can't.
outside the door.
I'm here too, just to say, this is Jesse.
There's Jesse, there's Jesse. Any more staff up there? Well, Jack is here, Kimberly's
Kristen,
here, Kristen's here,
this is Shannon. I'm not sure if you guys have met Shannon
Shannon,
before.
I saw her out at the thing in Manicat. Okay, anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. I'm just seeing if there's anybody else that has to respond to this thing. I know Bruce is here. Matt Haffenreffer's up there. Okay. Good afternoon, open meeting of the Harbor Plan Work Group. Update committee is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. Ensuring public access and not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature some public comment, but it is a meeting and not a hearing. For this meeting is convening by video conference via Zoom as posted on the town's website identifying how the public might join. Please note this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference and in the room. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Recording materials when provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. Public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Unless I note, chair notes otherwise. Meeting business ground rules. We are now turning the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude the remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comments. We're a little more loose than that. Please hold until your name is called. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. Members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items of public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom or in person. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names, be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in the meeting will be conducted by roll call votes. Okay. Approval of the agenda. Did somebody want to make that motion? Is that Dave?
Yep.
Is there a second?
Second.
Peter? All those in favor, Steve?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
Jesse?
Aye.
Seth?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Okay, approval of the minutes. Do we have minutes, Mr. Minuteman?
I wasn't here.
Okay,
I think I saw Sam taking some notes. Alan also from Urban Harbors has been taking notes, which I
Okay.
think he sent to you, Peter, which hopefully will help.
you can always
Okay.
watch the meeting too, if you want
need
to
to say-
relive that.
What?
You can always watch the meeting.
Right, so I always do appreciate it, but I need to say that, in early November, the report from this committee is due to, Erica Henry for the town report. So sometime between now and then, I'll be producing that, and then at a meeting close to that date, then I'll send it in, and then we'll have to vote on it, to say that's okay before I send it to Erica.
And remember
Sorry.
that ends June 30th. That doesn't
Yeah,
cover
and
anything
June
since then.
30th, So
Okay.
there won't be much, but there'll be
Yeah.
something.
Okay, harbor planning, area review, discuss and vote on Matticat boundary. Okay, that takes us to this map, I assume. We had already voted on this and sent it up to the state. Now we're being asked to consider expanding it. Is that my understanding, Jeff?
Correct,
Okay, because we already got approval from the state for the boundaries that we sent up there.
yes, and I know if you wanna see the original boundary,
Yes,
has it available. There's a paper copy
Yes,
here.
it's here too. And I think Bruce had some things he wanted to share about his proposition here, and I can also share on the screen.
Bruce was gonna give us a map showing the approved water and what he was proposing,
that's
right?
right here.
But yeah, I mean, on the same piece of paper.
Yeah, that's not on the same piece of paper.
Oh, I think we can. Wow. Get a close idea.
Yeah, can we put it up, is there any way to
Yep,
put it up
I'll
on the
put it up.
screen? Okay, that'll be the best thing to do. Oh, that's a way to hide your face. Look at the screen. Hold it in front of that thing.
Okay, so this is. Stop. I don't know why that's doing that, but. So that is what we have right now, and then so Bruce came to us initially and noted that he would like to extend that and has shared with us. Bruce, do you want to explain this map, where this map came from?
Thank you. When we met with you during your presentation in Madigan, many of the folks there thought that the boundary, as long as we're amending it, that we wanted to suggest that the proposed amended boundary should be created in a way that helps sync up other boundaries that various town entities are using in Madigan. The Madigan Harbor watershed boundary published by the town of Nantucket. And I showed last month the document that the town produces. And the boundary in that document matches what we're proposing. The water resource protection areas from the Horsley, Witten, Hegman maps from 1990. Those maps depict the west end, and their protection map jives with what we're proposing. There's an interrelationship with these. The Madigan Harbor Watershed Protection District matches this. The estuary system graphic showing all 7 of the watersheds in Madigan matches what we're proposing. The Board of Health's 2 zones that they use in their regulation 51 matches what we're proposing. It's not all that different from what you guys are proposing, but we thought they should match. And Kim, you suggested perhaps if I brought a couple of graphics with me that just make 6 copies. I'll very quickly share these with you folks if you want to pass them around, or you want me to pass them around.
Yeah.
That's one. And there's one other set of graphics. That I want to share with you, that I file the records for the people that are here. And what these basically are,
Okay. Great.
showing the harbor watershed graphic, the HWH graphic, and these are basically for your file, but what they basically show is environmentally and scientifically, the boundary that we're proposing is something that embraces the entirety of the Madigan Harbor watershed that feeds into Madigan Harbor, and it affects the harbor plan. It affects eelgrass, it affects open space, it affects endangered species and things of that nature. So it just makes sense to us that we try to, as long as you're amending and the notice to proceed that you received says that you can make an amendment. So that's what we're proposing.
Can I ask a question?
Who is we, first off?
It's the Madigan Conservation Association, it's the people,
Have they voted on this?
yes.
The whole thing?
Yes, we had a meeting on it. We discussed this at the meeting that you guys held in Madigan, and the folks there all concurred that this made sense. So, you know, this, we were told, yeah, we'll discuss it. So we said, okay, we'll wait, so we're discussing it.
Linda,
And the Mattocket Area Plan Group that now is trying to amend the Mattocket Area Plan is also interested in seeing this dovetail with all of the other maps, basically, and watersheds and things like that, that the various town entities are using. Why should one use one that's basically defined by Mattocket Road versus what the other entities in the town are using, which is environmentally and scientifically based?
Dave,
it's been said 2 or 3 times that we were amending our study area. Are we amending our study area?
from 2009.
No,
I
I'm
think
talking
that's-
about us.
Oh, no,
I think that's the discussion that you guys are having.
Well, it was, Bruce said 3 times, you're already amending your study area,
we amended this. We went
Right.
from red
Yeah.
to green. That's
that-
what we did.
and that's done.
That's done.
That's
That
done
has been
and
done.
approved by
Okay,
the
so
state.
we're not amending, we, the committee, are not considering at the present time, while this is under consideration, amending our study area again.
That's what he's asking us to
We've
do.
done it.
Okay, that's fine, we're done.
We're done, and he's
To this
asking
point.
us if
Okay.
we'll amend again.
All right, if I may,
Yeah,
if I
the
may,
document that Linda has
Let
in front of
Dave-
her is my
let Dave
document.
finish. Let Dave-
Please, through the chair.
One
let
person
Dave
at a
finish.
time. Peter?
Sorry, let Dave finish.
but and I've worked with every one of those maps and every one of those processes. And I don't think that those lines match up with what this committee is trying to address and update of the existing harbor plan.
And you stress the word harbor plan, correct?
Yes.
Peter?
No, I was just trying to let Dave speak. That's all.
Oh, thanks.
That's for now.
Thanks, Peter.
Linda?
Steve?
And as Seth said in the last meeting, which you weren't here, and seems to make a lot of sense, is we don't have to amend our district, but we can still write in recommendations that encompass the watershed area, knowing that they affect it. We can write that into the plan, but we don't have to change our district to do that. Is that correct, Seth?
Thank you. Yes, that is correct. And if you look at the last plan from 2009, there is plenty of implemented activities that did just that talked about educational efforts or outreach efforts that were non-specific to the planning boundary. So we certainly can include any type of concerns that relate to long ponds in the harbor plan without updating the planning boundary itself. Thank you.
Linda.
Yep, Dave?
So my suggestion to the Mattocket folks is to participate if they feel strongly enough about a specific issue, area, environmental process or detriment or
Impact.
activity in that watershed, come to us specifically and we'll address it as a committee. And as Seth has pointed out, Steve has pointed out, it can always be incorporated, but I don't see where you have to have some line on a piece of paper other than for the state's approval for us to move forward as they've already given to consider anything that anybody, whatever watershed wants.
I agree with what's been said. Taking it all the way to Bishop's Rise is outside of the scope of what we're doing here and outside of the plan. Taking it all the way over to Hummock Pond is outside our scope and our plan. It has nothing to do with the harbor.
Right.
Now, obviously, the health of the harbor is actually impacted by what's going on outside of the district that we have approved. And that is what Seth is referring to, is that we can put language in there about how people are negatively impacting the harbor with runoff and agricultural things, as opposed to expanding our jurisdiction to include things that is not harbor. Kim?
So I just wanted to say, Emily couldn't be here today. I think, is she in Hawaii doing
She
a?
just competed in the Iron Man. Yes.
Oh, it's gonna be
Amazing.
on TV.
That's awesome. And she sent me an email since she couldn't be here. And basically what she said is that she was in agreement with the comments made around the Mattocket boundary, as long as we still have the ability to make recommendations about impacts to water quality that may originate outside of the boundaries. provided they impact the harbor itself, I'm happy with however the rest of the committee votes on that matter.
Far more eloquent than I did.
Bill, do you
So,
have something?
yeah, basically a similar thing. I think the question is, you know, from our end, we definitely can make recommendations outside of the planning area. When it goes then to the state or to you guys, really, when you guys get the plan, would there be any chance of those recommendations having less weight for you? Which it shouldn't, but it would be in the implementation committee's hands at that point.
Bill?
I agree with all the comments. I think that as long as we can incorporate new items that come along that would be of significance, we can, but that doesn't mean we have to change the boundaries.
Linda, to what Kim just said about that is that, I mean, right up until the minute you vote, somebody could come up with somebody completely removed from this process, come up with a very, very good idea that we would certainly consider. And if these folks are mobilized and ready, willing, and able to give their input, then let them give their input. But I'm just saying that anybody could walk in off the street before that final vote, say, hey, you know what, did you guys think about such and such? And we could all just say no, and let's discuss it and include it, right?
Focus on one thing at a time.
Exactly.
Peter?
Yeah, so speaking for CRAC, Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee, so we get this plan done, then when do we go and review it again? 5 years, 10 years?
It's supposed to be 10, isn't it?
Yeah, like 10.
10? Okay, so in 10 years, you know, I agree with what everybody says today, but we should build something into the plan that takes into account sea level rise, and that the boundary may well be what Mr. Mandel wants at some point, because the water is going to come in and move the beach in, or wherever it's going to be. So we shouldn't just, you know, dismiss it out of hand. We should,
No.
we should say, we realize that the water may be breaking on, you know, halfway up. I mean, we already know what our estimates are. So I just think that we acknowledge this line that he's proposed, but not do it, but be ready to do it when we do the next.
There's nothing to preclude us from opening it sooner, should we have a greater impact on the harbors than we're anticipating right now, because you can only think out so far. So I just want to make sure that we all understand we can always revisit this within 10 years if there's a bigger impact happening that we just can't foresee right now. Steve had his hand up.
Yeah, I think Jack said at the beginning of this that, you know, you can amend this plan after it's been accepted, you know, in next year, 2 years, 3 years from now, this plan can be amended, doesn't have to wait for 10 years to be
But it's
amended.
a living document.
Well, let me ask a procedural question about that. I get that, and I like that, but what do you have to go through a complete formal process like we are right now? Or could the input, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, to Peter's point, it's a moving target that we didn't have to consider before. And that maybe at 5 years, you do want to look at it, not wait till 10 or 12 because you forgot to do it in 10. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But what's the process? If it was at 5 years, what would we have to do, Jack?
I would ask either Jack or Steve is on, which Steve might be good to ask that question to.
Sure, I'm happy to weigh in. It's fortunately much simpler than, you know, a whole renewal process. It's just that it's an amendment. So you'd send the proposed amendment to us, would review it. And then as long as it's, you know, within the regulations of a municipal harbor plan, it'd be noticed in the monitor. There'd be a review period and a period for public comments, and then a decision would be made on the amendment. So it's a much simpler process than what you're going through right now.
Okay.
All right, great. Thanks, Steve.
2 hands up.
Oh, Matt? Or Jesse? I'll go to Jesse first. She's a board member. Jesse.
Well, one of my questions was just answered, so thank you. And then just, so I think I'm on, you know, in agreement with the majority or the rest of you. But I thought Jeff's comments at the last meeting were really helpful in the sort of what is the purpose of this plan versus other plans. That helped me sort of get my thoughts together on, on the subject, and that it governs uses, right, relative to the harbor. And just to fully play this out, if that new plan was adopted, would that mean that the Chapter 91 licenses for stuff on the ponds would basically be, it would be governed by this municipal harbor plan? Is that right? Like, as far as DEP would look to this for, it would be superseding like whatever the default regulations, or not, it would carry weight in the review of Chapter 91 licenses on the pond. That's my question.
I might default to Steve to answer that question, but I think
That's a good question.
I think my initial impression, hopefully Steve will agree with me, is if it's within the mapped planning area, that anytime a state license is looked to for review and comment, if it's within that planning boundary, they would have to at least take account of the goals of that plan, because it's within that boundary. Kind of my gut feeling on that. Steve may disagree though, but I would.
No, Jeff, I totally agree. It is within the planning scope. So the first thing, DEP sort of, they would cross-reference the plan. But unless the plan speaks specifically to a specific area or a specific parcel or a particular condition with a license, it wouldn't really make a difference, if those Chapter 91 licenses on an inland pond were within the planning area, unless there was some kind of relevant action, either in an amplification or substitution, something along those lines. It really wouldn't, affect DEP's review, in my opinion. And most of the time, those relate to licenses on filled tidelands, historically, not always, but typically. So it would be a check that DEP would have to do when they, look at a license within the planning area, but I don't think it would impact it in any way.
Yep. So it sounds like the map can be easily changed, relatively easily changed. And I just think that maybe we should call that out at some point in the plan, that, that this is the plan today, but we fully anticipate that change might be warranted sooner than, 10 years. So.
Yeah, I think that's wise, to the planning group. We're at a really unprecedented time of kind of emerging issues related to climate change. And, the typical 10-year period, that's, been reasonable in the past, but that might need, things may crop up sooner, in that period. So, yeah, I think that's worth highlighting.
We have a preamble to the report, and all that stuff can be spelled out in the preamble, that we are acknowledging that things may change sooner than 10 years. So it's in writing and
I
in
don't
that
wanna-
document.
If Matt wants to go, I do have a comment, but I don't
Matt,
let it be forgotten either.
Thank you. So I just wanted to summarize the way I see Bruce's issue. I think his first question was really focused on if there was value in aligning the boundary with other boundaries. He wanted to focus on that, but I think looking at it as broad as watershed seems too big and not as valuable as, or not valuable to this group, because those all just serve different purposes. I think a very separate issue that's the same is, does extending it just directly to include Long Pond have value? Because Long Pond is tidal and drains and empties with the tide. I think this comes back to, what is the value of including it? It certainly is directly contributing, but if you don't need it to, I think I hear you guys very clearly that you can address things and put them in your recommendations without it. But what I wanted to just ask is, does it change the likelihood that we follow up on those things? Because there'll be 100 things in this recommendation list. Does it deprioritize Long Pond if it's not directly a part of the zone? I guess would be the question that I would have. But yeah, thank you.
I asked at the very beginning whether or not we were including the ponds, the great ponds, particularly Long Pond. And we flesh that out at the very beginning, that we're not including Long Pond. We were expanding the 2009 map to cover the ditch, more of Eel Point, because it's underwater half the time, you know, things like that. I mean, does anybody want to revisit including Long Pond at this point?
I have a comment if people, it's kind of related. I think to Long Pond directly, obviously, it connects through Mattocket Ditch.
Yeah.
And Mattocket Ditch is included, so that connection from Long Pond to Mattocket Harbor's very clearly within the area, so I think recommendations that affect the ditch would spill into Long Pond either way. So, that being said, I think I wanted to take a minute to comment on the timeline and duration. Because I think there've been some lessons learned from this process initiating and knowing that we're in 2023 off the 2009 plan and probably won't have an approved plan until 2024, which in effect will stretch our last plan to 15 years. I think part of it is thinking about it in the sense of procurement through the town process. We would really, I think, ideally like to start the update process again, probably not in 10 years, but we would probably start going through all of the pains of the budget process, probably 7 to 8 years from now, to start this process to line up closer to the actual expiration. So we're not doing, extension requests to the state to get the plan extended, that we would be initiating that new process and hopefully syncing up the expiration of the old plan with the adoption of the new plan, ideally. So really, when you're thinking about the planning phase on that, it's not a 10-year window, because you're really starting that discussion again 7 or 8 years down the line at the latest, ideally, I think, going forward. And I know sometimes plans get forgotten and dealt with, but I mean, realistically, we'll fully fess up. On my 10-year budget look ahead, I've already scheduled this for 8 years from now. So that's kind of
Great.
where we're at
Urban
planning
Harvest
wise.
is available.
You say that now.
So where do you want to go with Long Pond?
I think with the connection in, my personal impression is that it's fine. I think it adds a level of unnecessary complexity that we can deal with through recommendations.
Okay. So leave everything the way it is.
I'm personally fine with the boundaries the way they are.
Okay. We should probably, in the language in the plan, mention the fact that we do acknowledge that Long Pond does have a connection to the ditch, which then in turn has a connection to the harbor.
Yeah, we have heard a lot of comments in the survey specifically about concerns about Long Pond and water quality there.
It's right next to the dump.
The connection to the dump. And so we've heard a lot of that, and I actually have some preliminary survey results that I'll share in a little bit. But I mean, it definitely seems like it's an issue that shouldn't be, we should definitely be talking about and including recommendations on. And at this point, I'd like to talk to Emily a little bit more about what recommendations she would suggest. If it's like increased monitoring there, I'm not really sure the scope of what needs to be done with Long Pond, but I think it seems like it's an issue that people are very concerned about.
Yeah, question.
Yeah.
Off like a moron, but the area that we've decided on, it's essentially a zone of contribution, right? It's whatever's going into the water, going into the ground, it's actually going into the water, and then it's impacts within the area and its uses and everything we know that goes with the harbor plan. So when I look at this, it very well could be a zone of contribution could continue out to this line that Bruce is proposing. But there's a lot of conservation land in there. And I don't know how much that's contributing to whatever we're worried about. But the conservation land, it's way away from the harbor. So how is there some sort of impact that it has to be in the plan? Looks like it's about a third of the island here, so.
Yeah, I just have curiosity, is this amount of, would you see a future plan including this amount just
No.
based on coastal resiliency and,
Not to Bishop's Rise,
yeah,
not to Bartlett Farm Road.
For Well, for
Not smooth
watershed
hummocks.
management and something like that.
Watershed, yeah,
Certainly, but
not the
not
harbor.
for this.
Smooth hummocks, not the harbor.
I would personally say that that planning area fits a lot better within the adopted water resources management plan, essentially the
Yeah.
water quality plan.
So someone else is, as you said, someone else is doing that. We're doing the impacts of things outside of the district that we identified that are affecting us, and that's what's going to be in the plan as well.
If I may too, I think my other concern about changing this boundary is, I think for consistency purposes, we would then also have to change the Nantucket Harbor one, if we're gonna go by that.
Oh, yeah, and then we'd have nothing left. Everything would be included.
I don't really feel like, given the scope of what this plan is for, that having discussions about what's happening at, Holgate's Pit as part of the harbor plan is really fitting in with what the scope of the harbor plan does.
That is a water thing, but not the harbor.
And I really believe that there's so much overlap between plans now, whether it's the water quality plan, the coastal resiliency plan, the harbor plan, local area plans, the master plan, open space plan. Like, there's so many plans, they all overlap and do things that those concerns are getting addressed. But I think staying focused to the scope of what the plans are can sometimes be a struggle.
Just want to note, Seth also has a hand raised, even though we can't see him on there for some reason.
Where are you, Seth?
So I can.
You there somewhere?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
All right.
can't see.
Welcome back.
Yeah, so I mean, we've talked about this a lot, but just very quickly, I think it's important to say two things here. I see we have coastal resiliency integration as our next agenda item. I think we can and absolutely should say things like adopting or not adopting, implementing specific strategies in the coastal resiliency plan, such as raising Matticat Road and increasing water flow through the Matticat ditch, will cause this location to become more estuarine over time and should be included in the next planning update. But right now, Matticat Ditch is like pushing all of the weight of the ocean through a straw. I mean, here at the Linda Loring Nature Foundation, my organization, we're working to study water quality and also water turnover with water level meters in various places along Long Pond, including Matticat Ditch and the other parts of the pond. We don't have a robust data set yet to know exactly what's going on, but that is a historic ditch that was dug by hand almost 400 years ago, and it's very constrained. So we absolutely can and should say, once that ditch is restored to more of like a functioning wetland system, and water is pushed up into the north head of Long Pond, and honestly parts of the Linda Loring Nature Foundation become saltwater marshes at that point, these are going to be issues. But right now, and I don't even think in the next 7 years, honestly, with the speed of how these projects go, it'll be an issue. So we should say things like these coastal resiliency strategies will increase the planning area over time, but they don't currently do so at this point.
Perfect. Write it down and send it to everybody.
You take a motion.
I think Kristen had a
Oh,
comment.
Kristen?
sorry.
Yeah, I was just actually going to say something along the lines of what Seth said, though far less eloquent and detailed. If you look at the MCFRM data for this area in 2030, it does show potential significant flooding. And so most of the conversation up to this point had focused on water quality. I think Seth introduced the idea of natural resources and climate change, but if the recommendations for this plan want to be proactive about flooding an area, I could see another argument to include it. I can show Kim, if I can share my screen, I can show you.
Yeah,
about the
you should be able to.
Can you guys see it?
Yep.
Yep.
So this is for 2030. It's the one, Steve, tell me when I get this wrong, but the 1% chance of annual flooding in the area. And you can see pretty significant flooding. So I don't know.
Does that go back to, I think, what we're looking at here? pretty close,
No, we're
Yeah.
close.
all the way, but
So I know we extended the harbor planning area in the downtown harbor area because of flooding concerns, and I don't know whether or not the same argument might be made to do so here.
Well, we did that.
Yeah, we did.
We already did
include
that.
Eel Point.
We
because of
increased it at
flooding
Eel
concern.
Point, we increased the whole ditches in, we increased, Old Manicat is in. So we already did that.
We moved the bound west, east.
East, yes.
Right, but I don't know if we looked at I don't remember if we looked at Long Pond for resilience purposes when we were extending it.
We did, because as I say, we brought it up at the very beginning, should we go all the way to Long Pond? And we decided not to do that at this time.
I think part of the discussion also incorporated the idea that we do have an adopted coastal resiliency plan.
Yeah.
That will work together with this plan to address some of those things.
Because they'll deal with the Great Ponds, Capom, all those guys.
You entertain a motion?
I want to give Bruce one more chance. Do you understand what we're saying, Bruce?
Yes, I think it's a good approach as long as these factors are put in what you call the preamble. And there could be some consideration. Peter mentioned flooding. In my original submission a month ago, I did include a copy, here it is, of the coastal resilience plan.
Yeah.
Showing the potential flooding. I'm sorry you don't have that here, but that wasn't my original submission to you. And so it is something that our group was very concerned about, and Kristen's screen sharing shows that what we showed from the coastal resilience plan was more of a long-term view, longer term view. So it's not something we ignored. It's just something that we didn't discuss today. But again, it was part of that trying to sync up all of these various plans and maps and whatnot that the various town entities use and try to merge them into what this committee is doing. And we weren't trying to say what you did was inappropriate. We just thought a slightly larger area would embrace the factors that are flowing into Connecticut Harbor now. So thank you for your consideration.
It's a good discussion.
Yeah, I think
we had to have this discussion.
yeah, regardless of the boundary moving or not, I think it brought to light a lot of concerns that people have in that area. So I think it's good for us to include that in the plan moving forward.
Absolutely. Dave, is a motion necessary to keep it the same, or we're keeping it the same?
Unless anybody strongly disagrees.
Okay, we'll just leave it the same then. And thank you, Matticat, for their concerns. Because
Thank you,
we have to address the stuff that's outside of this district, that's impacting this district. Okay, thank you. Coastal resiliency integration, Steve.
We talked about it at the last meeting, Jeff said that, you said that the select board was gonna talk about it at their last meeting or something, there'd be more information now. About the coastal resilience districts. And how a coastal resilience district might be within our boundary.
Yeah.
And how that might dovetail.
How do they sync?
Whether we're working against it or with it, or.
So they did, they're still kind of looking at that and have brought in counsel to kind of review. So I think we're all kind of waiting
So
for
it's just.
Vicky Marsh to finish her review.
In light of time and everything, I don't know that we need to spend a lot of time. on
Well,
that right
Vicky
now.
Marsh is gonna take a freaking 10 years to review it.
Do you
was
have
assigned
anything
to it.
add
I
about
don't
the
get to-
districts? Is it something that we
But
need
Vicky will
to
do
be
an
thinking
excellent
about?
job.
When
Well,
she gets
it's-
there.
So, so I just say, Madam Chair or Madam Chair?
Oh, just call me, whatever,
Okay.
Madam Linda.
Madam, whatever.
whatever.
So Jeff is right, the CRDs, it's early. The select board asked Crack to, advise them on what we thought, so we did that. And now they are getting opinion from town council. The CRDs don't exist yet. I think that they will be well enough along, or the idea will be well enough along before we finish this plan. It will be able to incorporate what we need to in it. So,
Okay,
but if pressed, if if you guys press us, then we'll make it a priority, but we're only an advisory committee, so it's up to the select board. Really, we could say we need to do this because it has to go into the, harbor plan.
Well, I would do that to try to move it along, because I know how glacial it's gonna be up at town council.
Yeah, but that's just it. It's glacial up at town council is we can just say, go faster, and they can say, chill out, and we'll do what we gotta do.
But they can also reestablish the priority, that this is a priority because we're in the
Yeah.
middle of this exercise now, so maybe it's worth you guys having that conversation.
Okay, I'll get ahold of Leah and see if maybe we can get something on the agenda for next week.
I was just wondering if, coastal resilience district is gonna supersede stuff that we do, or,
Not really
yeah.
through you, madam, whatever.
Whatever.
I mean, I see it as just another layer. Let's say, there's a CRD for, Smith's Point. And a betterment needs to be assessed, needs to be levied on people who, live in the Smith's Point neighborhood, because we're gonna turn Millie's Bridge into a steel and concrete structure that can withstand coastal storm flow, or just that barrier beach gets washed away. Then there might be something that would need to be in the plan, but
Yeah.
I mean, we're not really concerned about betterments here, right? So that's really what this is all about, trying to address, area specific issues.
It could be a suggestion in this plan that should Millie's Bridge need to be replaced, and they've already had to underpin it. Should it be replaced, that the town may want to consider betterments. I mean, we can put those things in there as suggestions and options,
And then you
so
could,
they're laid out.
right, then you could point to the CRDs, which
Right,
are headed in that direction probably, but we're not sure yet until we hear back from town council.
because at some point it's gonna get cut off if they didn't have a bridge. When you look at the 1938 aerials and some of the older aerials, they did not have Millie's Bridge. Mattocket Road went out another 100 and some odd feet, and they had a road that went to Smith's Point along the shore. Very clearly defined. I saw cars on it in the old aerials. There was no Millie's Bridge. They had to drive to Smith's Point all the way to the end of Mattocket Road. When I was a kid, when we were kids.
That was New Hampshire Road, right?
Yeah.
You got Maine that goes over it like that, and Rhode Island continues on.
It just kept going.
It was
And
just
when
a
we
road,
were kids,
but it was along the
Cisco went out another couple of 100 feet. I mean, things are changed. But now their only source of access is Millie's Bridge. So that has to be sort of hammered in there.
Or in the future, maybe the Sousa's.
No,
But it's an
no,
island.
no. All right, so that's good. We're on to survey results.
Sure, I can share. This is very preliminary, if I can find it on my computer here. But I just wanted to share kind of what we've been looking at from our end, which the downside of having 537 responses is the good side is that we have a lot of comments. The bad side is we have a lot of comments to go through. Or 534.
Only.
Just 534. So
That beat
here,
whatever that town was.
yes, Ipswich, we beat
Ipswich.
them by over 100, I
Yes,
think.
we did.
Let me see if I can trying to move it so you guys can see it better. But here you can see just the categories of, maybe if we close that thing. Or actually I can just do this. That should help. Here you can see who responded to the survey. So mostly year-round residents. People could check more than one box. So when you actually add up all these numbers across, it gets to be something like 800. But you can see that most people year-round residents, then after that, some are seasonal residents, and then going down. Not very many tourists or visitors really participated, but this just gives you a sense as to who participated.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then here you can see, these are the topics that are of importance to people. And so green is the very important category. And down to neutral is orange, and then blue is do not know. So this gives you a sense of what's really important to people. Water quality and natural resources really coming out as the big one. But just kind of gives you a sense, obviously all of these things are going to be included in the plan, but gives you a sense as to what people were really focused on.
Wow.
And then we went through, and since there are so many responses, really just kind of cherry picked some common themes that we saw. There's a lot more analysis that's going into this. And thankfully, we have a few extra people that are going to be helping us go through this, because what we're trying to do is come up with common themes from the survey. And then also we're trying to not just pull out themes, but if somebody made one really like golden comment, we don't want to lose that just because it wasn't repeated a lot. So making sure that we're capturing all of those things. Also, there are a lot of really funny comments in here. I should make a whole other slide for just the funny ones that came up.
I mean, the outtake one.
Exactly. It might not be appropriate though. So
Well, these are very similar to what Seth and I heard at our other table.
Yep,
Almost
definitely.
every one of those.
yeah,
Except for the
definitely.
solar thing.
Yep. So yeah, needing more quality modern infrastructure, including ramp, a lot of comments about wanting a second ramp in,
Oh, yeah.
In town, in the Nantucket Harbor. More docks, storage, ice. Also, just something to note is for everybody that said, not everybody, but some people said, oh, we want more docks or we want more moorings. And then some other people would say, we don't want more docks and more moorings because we don't want more people coming in and having a carrying capacity issue. But then concern over infrastructure flooding, need for other types of electrical infrastructure like solar, need for more parking was a huge one, and access infrastructure to some beaches that maybe are eroding, including one down by Matticat, I think was mentioned. Concern over overdevelopment and how it impacts environmental sustainability. All right, we only have 8 minutes left, so I'll just kind of zip through this. Boating and navigation, a lot of concerns about boating safety and the large number of boats in town. Again, need for a second boat ramp in town. More moorings and slips. Big emphasis on protecting natural resources from boat damage or boat mooring damage, specifically the eelgrass. A lot of concern over ghost moorings in the harbors. Need for more pump out facilities, and some people identified very specific areas that they thought needed dredging.
Apparently the dredging issue isn't Vince working on the dredging thing.
Good.
Yeah,
Yes,
they're
we
coming
were
up with
working on
that.
a sediment
Dredging
transport and
plan.
dredge plan.
Yeah,
Yep.
which is good.
Yep. Coastal resilience, I did include a couple comments here. Mother Nature always wins, don't fight Mother Nature.
I don't know where that comment came from.
And then I like the next one, was I thought the coastal resiliency people would like it, but the coastal resiliency plan is epic, use it. Need to protect.
No.
Yeah.
That sounds like.
Yeah.
It's overused.
Need to protect and adapt the community's infrastructure, concerns over barrier beaches breaching, and how that might affect flow patterns in the harbor. Interest in raising homes, roads, and electrical infrastructure along the waterfront, and then concern about erosion and damage to parking and access points.
Cisco.
Public access, a lot of people did identify some new potential access points, which I don't have off the top of my head, but we'll make note of those. And then also just generally more accessible information about where public access exists. Generally, people want all people to have access to the beaches. Again, need for more parking. Some people wanted more drive-on access, but again, some people said less drive-on access. Chapter 91 needing more enforcement. The interest in the downtown harbor walk, which we've heard a bunch, and the need to protect shorelines from degradation by controlling or limiting access points.
A lot of these things that are on these lists right now are not really in the harbor plan, but they're general erosion issues around the whole island.
Yep,
Not
some are
necessarily
in,
in
some are
our-
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're concerns held by almost everybody.
Yeah. Some people maybe didn't zoom in on the harbor areas.
Yes,
to
it
make their
sounds like
comments.
it, yeah.
So natural resources and water quality, Shannon looked through these comments, but so feel free to add anything. But more needs to be done to enforce the fertilizer regulations, including funding and additional staff, concern for overdevelopment of the island and its impacts, increasing monitoring and inspection of septic systems and sewer areas, strong support for continued eelgrass restoration, need for stormwater management, concern regarding the pollution in Matticat from the landfill, more education on fertilizer and water quality, and then both the support for dredging and then the concern for dredging and how it impacts the floor. And commercial and recreational fishing, concern for poor water quality impacting shell fishing. Increase, they would like to increase harvesting of the green crabs, expand oyster and scallop propagation, interest in seafood process capabilities for the island, and commercial pier for onloading and offloading gear, better access for commercial and recreational fishing, revitalize and incentivize participation in the Nantucket fisheries, more enforcement on shellfish regulations, and then the need to review and revise regulations regarding the closing. And that is all for now.
Pretty good.
Yeah, so we have, I mean, we've got a lot more to go through. That's just a start. Sorry. That's just a start. There's a lot more to continue to go through. And, you know, I think there's a lot of good stuff in there, a lot that reinforces things we've already heard. And we'll pull out things that we haven't heard yet that are good for us to talk about.
Cool, because we did pick up some other stuff in Mattocket when we had the
Yes.
Mattocket thing that we
Yes.
hadn't heard in the town once.
Yep, definitely.
Okay, cool. Any questions, anybody? Okay,
I got a question for Steve. I was up in Maine a couple of weeks ago sailing around, and virtually every harbor had a local co-op for the lobstermen, and but also for
Commercial fishing co-op.
Yeah. Does that make any sense, or has that been kicked around at all
We
here?
tried it years ago. Not that it couldn't be revisited, but we
We
tried.
were
it.
just
I
talking
think-
about that.
You know, I think part of the problem with commercial fishing on this island is just the economic drawbacks and everything else.
There aren't
well, how do you get them out of here?
many commercial fishermen other than scalpers.
For
To
example,
make it, yeah.
we used to have all, you know, even I think last summer, the summer before, the day boat and fluke guys used to come in and tie up at the town pier, but they had a buy boat that came in, so they
From the
could
Cape.
sell locally and they could sell to the buy boat. But now the buy boat doesn't want to come to Nantucket anymore.
Years ago, we came up with a format for it where they could buy equipment and engines and stuff at a reduced price because of the volume. I mean, it just didn't work out.
Okay.
And that's when we had
A lot.
100 fishermen.
We had conkers, we had scallopers, we had lobster guys, we had all kinds of guys.
Yeah.
There is a small group of day scalpers
Yeah,
quietly working away on the possibility. Working away
their
on
fishery.
doing a co-op.
Co-op for their
we
fishery.
should help them. We should include that in
They,
our
I think,
discussion.
don't want to be public and, you know, I'm taking maybe some liberties mentioning it, but they are dedicated and working on it.
Wow,
I think to that point, I think with the fluctuation and variation and strangeness of the price for base scallops, I think that part of what's driving the wagon is, you know, we used to have 5 commercial major buyers come from Boston and New York, and, you know, we struggled last year selling the scallops. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just that may be another reason. to
People are
have a
pretty
co-op.
independent here. I tried to set up sort of a co-op for the charter fishing guys just down in the marina when I was running a charter fishing business there, because I came from one down in Florida where they have one central booking number and one central office. And you'd just be up in rotation, you know, so rather than having everybody have to have someone pay someone to sit on the dock and book for them, I said we could have one person. I said, if you got a repeat customer and they call up and they say, I want to go with the albacore because I've been with them before, they go to the albacore. But if they're just calling up randomly, it would just go in the rotation and it would pool all the resources. Ray Costa was still running the albacore at that time.
and that's not gonna happen.
I got shut down about as
There was
quickly as.
when Bill Blount was living on the island before he moved to Fairhaven, he and his wife Ruth ran a CSA, a seafood CSA, and you
Yeah.
can buy in and pay a certain amount and then say what type of fish you wanted and you'd get that back.
It
So,
worked pretty good. for
yeah.
a while.
Well, it might be worth having another discussion, or, you know, bringing it up and say, look, guys, if you haven't considered this, because, you know, some of the taxis are actually working out of one central dispatch now too. So it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Most of the people get pretty set in their ways. Yeah.
There's still some of them around. Okay, great. So the next thing is timeline.
Oh, yes. I think I was gonna make a slide for this and I didn't. But basically, I can just give you a summary on what we're doing over here is, again, going through all the survey comments, we're still interviewing, so conducting interviews, pulling everything together, and, we're hoping to start, hopefully at each meeting, I can't promise, but at each meeting, hopefully start to bring recommendations in front of you guys and see what you want to have move forward. If there are red flags, that's not something we should have move forward.
Well, stay right there for a second.
Yeah.
Because I know Phil and I have been on the bandwagon of going through that thing, what's been done and what hasn't been done and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We've never come back to it because we've gotten so focused on these meetings and the survey.
Right.
So we need to sort of back up a little bit and go back to that big matrix and start going through that and see, just cut to the chase on some of that stuff. And I think that might eliminate a lot of extra work. Are you still in that
Absolutely.
position?
I-
Okay.
I'm not, haven't been bringing my matrix in the last couple of meetings because
Because we haven't gotten
we
there.
haven't gotten.
I think we need to
I think we
refocus
really
on
need to
that.
Plow through that.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep, yeah, we'll have to think, it's long, it's big, so if there's a streamlined way to do it.
I think, one meeting at a
Uh-huh.
time, we go through one section.
One
Okay.
section,
But
one
you can do
section.
that,
Yeah.
I think we need
Well, I
to
think
do
some
that.
of those you could probably do two in one meeting, some of them
Yeah.
are pretty short.
Well, we could try,
Yeah.
we could experiment and
Like
try
the
and see
tourism
how,
one, I think has two.
we could
But we
just-
need to start that process.
Okay,
Now that we've gotten all this out of the way.
good, okay.
Okay, when do you want to meet again?
So we have a meeting, on the calendar for so actually, it's going to be to keep with the first and third Monday of the month. It will be the 6th, actually,
Okay.
the 6th and the 20th.
The 30th is not happening.
No, I'm coming back from New Jersey that day.
And
The 6th and then the 20th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody still okay with the 1 o'clock time?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe we can start our little matrix project in one of those meetings. What do you think?
I think it would make sense.
Mhm.
I know you want to collate the surveys. I know
Yep.
there's going to be a discussion about that. But
Mhm.
then I really think that's what we really
Okay.
need to do. So if everybody still has their matrices, sort of start looking at them.
Dave already went through.
if you don't.
I know he
send
did.
it to you.
I think I've got your.
I have my
comments.
color coded copy.
If everybody wants the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
I know Tara and I, and
Yeah, you and.
a couple down, maybe we can file those and
Mhm.
try to
This
make
one,
those
right?
shorter for everybody.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
edit
Yes,
them
we-
down.
Yeah.
Cause I have the like 30-page one thing.
We got a few weeks to get it ready for everyone,
Mhm.
so
Okay.
I think if we try to combine Dave's, mine, Tara's, and UHI's.
Yep.
And make it a lot easier to get
Yeah,
through.
make it easier to get through.
Instead of having 80 in some of them, we can have it down to like
Yeah.
30.
Right.
Okay, good. All right, anything else? Anybody wants to bring up? Everybody okay up there, Seth, Jesse?
I'm heading down there momentarily to meet up with Kristen and
Kim.
Kim.
Kim and Shannon.
Oh, okay.
All right, so
Thank
somebody,
you.
wanna-
One thing, I'm on the Roads and Right of Way Committee, and every month I get asked what's going on, so I think there's a lot of interest among other committees as to what we're doing.
well,
So I think that, I don't know whether there's a way that we might want to sort of let people know what we're up to, but anyhow, I try to report a lot of interest in chapter 91.
Did they ask or did they get interviewed? Asked to be interviewed individually?
I don't think they're on the list.
I know Shab did that. That's all the only reason I say that is that's what we did with Shab.
Well, Phil's
Yeah.
on the committee. I take the reports back to the Concom.
Okay, well, I guess the point is though, that I think there, in addition to Roads and Right of Way, there may be other committees in town that kind of, see a little bit of an overlap and we're interested in.
Well, there is with the Concom,
Well, that's why we have representatives.
Yeah, okay.
And correct,
correct?
Peter, Shab.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's something, because after Peter maybe does the annual report, I wonder if for the end of the year if we did the little like
Update.
one pager that
Yeah.
we could.
Circulate
around
around all the
everybody,
committees and
So
say.
they could see it.
Yeah.
That doesn't
Yeah.
seem like a real heavy lift.
Cool. All right, somebody want to make a motion to adjourn at 2:04?
So moved.
Peter,
Second.
Phil. Steve,
Aye.
Peter,
All right.
Dave,
Aye.
Phil,
Aye.
Jesse,
Aye.
Seth,
Hi.
Linda. Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
You
you.
guys.
Yeah.